When you learn to embrace silence, you step into a new level of influence. We often believe that respect is earned by how much we say, how loudly we speak, or how well we argue, but in reality, true respect is earned in the pauses, in the quiet moments, in the restraint we show when we could speak but choose not to. Silence is a powerful force. When you stay silent, people start paying attention. They notice your presence in a different way. Because silence is rare, most people fill every moment with noise, just to prove something, just to be heard, just to feel important. But when you remain silent, you create an aura of mystery, of confidence, of strength. And people respect that. Silence is one of the most underrated yet powerful tools you can use to command respect. In a world where everyone is constantly talking, trying to prove their worth with words, silence stands out. It makes people curious. It forces them to pay attention. When you don't speak unnecessarily, when you don't rush to explain yourself, people naturally begin to wonder what you're thinking. And that in itself gives you power. Most people assume that being respected means being the loudest voice in the room. But true respect isn't earned through noise, it's earned through presence. When you walk into a room and don't immediately try to dominate the conversation, people take notice. They start to see you as someone who doesn't need validation, someone who isn't desperate for attention. That kind of quiet confidence is what makes people respect you without you having to demand it. Think about the most influential leaders, the most successful individuals. They don't waste their words. They listen more than they speak. And when they do speak, every word has weight. That's because they've mastered the power of silence. They've learned that not every situation requires their input, not every argument needs a response, and not every challenge needs to be met with words. Sometimes, silence itself is the strongest response. When you remain silent, you create an air of mystery around yourself. People start wondering what you're thinking, what you know that they don't. And in doing so, they automatically place more value on your presence. They respect you because you don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't engage in meaningless debates. You don't let your emotions dictate your words. Instead, you choose when and how to speak. And that choice alone gives you control over the conversation. Silence also protects your energy. It stops you from engaging in unnecessary conflicts. It prevents you from saying things in the heat of the moment that you might later regret. It gives you time to observe, to understand, and to strategize. People who talk too much often reveal their weaknesses, their insecurities, and their lack of self-control. But those who embrace silence, they exude strength, discipline, and confidence. And here's the truth. When you stop talking so much, people start listening more when you do. When you hold back your words and only speak when necessary, your voice gains more authority. People respect those who don't waste their words. They listen more closely, they take you more seriously, and they value your opinion because they know you don't just speak for the sake of speaking. If you want to command more respect in your life, stop trying to prove yourself with words. Let your actions do the talking. Let your results speak for themselves. Let your silence create the impact that endless talking never could. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful people aren't the ones who say the most. They're the ones who know when to stay silent and let their presence do the work. Most people believe that leadership is about being the loudest voice in the room, the one who commands attention, gives orders, and always has something to say. But real leadership isn't about talking. It's about listening. The most powerful and respected leaders aren't the ones who dominate conversations. They're the ones who pay attention, absorb information, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Listening is the most underrated leadership skill, yet it's the one that can transform how people see and respect you. When you truly listen, people feel valued. In a world where everyone is trying to get their point across, being the person who genuinely hears others sets you apart. It shows that you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, you actually care about understanding. And when people feel heard, they respect the one who listens. They see you as someone who is wise, thoughtful, and in control. Listening also gives you an advantage. When you listen more than you speak, you gain knowledge that others miss. You notice things that others overlook. You pick up on emotions, on patterns, on details that help you make better decisions. Most people reveal more than they intend to when they talk. They expose their fears, their weaknesses, and their insecurities. If you're always talking, you miss those signs. But if you stay quiet and listen, you gain insight that gives you the upper hand. One of the biggest mistakes people make in conversations is assuming they need to prove something. They feel the need to show how smart they are, to impress others with their opinions. But true leaders don't waste energy trying to impress. They focus on understanding. They ask the right questions. They let others speak first, and when they do respond, their words carry more weight because they've taken the time to listen. Listening is also a sign of confidence. People who constantly interrupt, who always have to have the last word, who refuse to hear others out, they do so out of insecurity. They feel the need to assert themselves because they fear being overlooked. But a confident person doesn't need to fight for attention. They know that their silence is just as powerful as their words. They understand that being the quietest in the room often makes them the most respected. If you want to command respect, stop trying to dominate every conversation. Instead, become the person who listens deeply, who asks meaningful questions, who understands before responding. Let others reveal themselves while you observe and learn. People will naturally start to see you as a leader, someone they can trust, someone whose words are valuable because they come from a place of understanding, not just the desire to be heard. At the end of the day, leadership isn't about how much you say, it's about how well you listen. The more you listen, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better your decisions. And when you make better decisions, you earn the kind of respect that no amount of talking could ever achieve. Silence is a powerful tool. It makes people uncomfortable, and in that discomfort they reveal who they really are. When you stay quiet, people feel the need to fill the space with words, and in doing so, they often expose their true thoughts, intentions, and emotions. If you talk too much, you miss these crucial moments. But if you stay silent, you let people show you exactly who they are. Most people struggle with silence. They rush to speak, to explain, to justify, to impress. But when you don't engage in that same way, when you simply listen and observe, you give yourself an advantage. You allow others to reveal their motivations without even realizing it. Some people will try to manipulate you with words, telling you what they think you want to hear. But when you stay quiet, when you let them keep talking, they will eventually reveal the truth. Think about how most people react in a conversation. When there's a pause, they jump in to fill the space. If they're hiding something, they'll over-explain. If they're trying to impress you, they'll exaggerate. If they have bad intentions, they'll slip up. All you have to do is listen. You don't have to push, you don't have to challenge, just let them talk. Because when someone is lying, when someone is pretending, when someone is trying to manipulate you, silence is their worst enemy. This is why some of the most successful negotiators, leaders, and even detectives use silence as a strategy. They don't rush to respond. They don't let emotions dictate their words. They let the other person talk themselves into a corner. They let them reveal their weaknesses, their inconsistencies, their real agenda. And by staying quiet, they maintain control of the situation. In relationships, this is just as important. If you constantly talk, constantly explain yourself, constantly defend your actions, you give people too much power over you. But when you stay quiet, you force them to show who they really are. You'll notice who truly values you and who only sticks around when it benefits them. You'll see who respects your boundaries and who tries to break them. You'll understand who is genuine and who is just putting on a show. Silence is a filter. It separates those who are honest from those who are deceptive. It reveals true intentions without you having to ask. It allows you to make better decisions about who to trust, who to keep close, and who to walk away from. Most people never use this power because they're too afraid of the awkwardness that comes with silence. But the moment you embrace it, the moment you realize that silence speaks louder than words, you will see people for who they really are. So the next time you're in a conversation, try this. Say less, watch more, let the other person talk. Give them the space to reveal themselves. You'll be surprised at what you learn. And most importantly, you'll earn a level of respect and understanding that words alone could never achieve. Your worth is not determined by how much you say. Too many people feel the need to explain, justify, or prove themselves with words, thinking that if they talk enough, others will see their value. But the truth is, real worth is demonstrated through actions, not endless explanations. You don't need to convince people of your value. Show them. Let your work, your discipline, your confidence, and your results speak louder than any words ever could. Think about the most respected people you know. Are they the ones constantly talking about their skills, their achievements, their knowledge? Or are they the ones who let their actions do the talking? True power comes from quiet confidence. When you truly believe in yourself, you don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to seek validation from others. You know your worth. And that's enough. Many people make the mistake of thinking that if they don't speak up constantly, they will be overlooked. They believe that in order to be respected, they have to argue their point, assert their dominance, and make sure everyone knows what they bring to the table. But the reality is, the more you try to prove yourself with words, the less convincing you actually are. Desperation speaks louder than confidence. People can sense when you're trying too hard to earn their approval, and it has the opposite effect. It makes them respect you less. When you stay silent, when you focus on doing instead of talking, you force people to pay attention to what truly matters. Instead of spending time trying to impress others with your words, you invest that energy into improving yourself. Instead of telling people about your plans, you execute them. Instead of trying to make others see your value, you become so good they can't ignore you. This is why some of the most powerful people in the world don't waste time trying to prove themselves with words. They don't need to. They let their presence, their work ethic, and their results speak for them. And because they don't chase validation, people respect them more. There is something incredibly strong about a person who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves, a person who simply exists in their own power without needing constant affirmation. Next time you feel the urge to justify yourself, to prove your worth, or to explain why you deserve respect, pause. Ask yourself, do I really need to say this? Or can I show it instead? More often than not, you'll find that words are unnecessary. The strongest people aren't the ones who say the most, they're the ones who don't have to say anything at all. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people believe that staying quiet in certain situations is a sign of weakness, that if you don't speak up, you'll be overlooked or dismissed. But in reality, controlled silence is one of the strongest tools you can use. It shows confidence, patience, and self-discipline. It forces people to pay attention, to wonder what you're thinking, and to respect the fact that you don't feel the need to constantly prove yourself. People who are quick to react, who argue for the sake of being heard, or who always need to have the last word, are often driven by insecurity. They fear that if they don't voice their opinions immediately, they will be forgotten or ignored. But true strength isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. When you control your silence, you control the energy of the conversation. You make people lean in, pay attention, and respect what you bring to the table. Think about the most powerful leaders, negotiators, and influencers. They don't waste words. They don't speak just to fill the silence. Instead, they use their words intentionally, and when they choose to be silent, it carries weight. Their controlled silence makes people listen more closely when they finally do speak. It's a sign of discipline, of someone who doesn't need to react impulsively, but instead takes the time to think, process, and respond with purpose. Silence also makes people uncomfortable, and that discomfort can be powerful. When you stay quiet in the face of provocation, you shift the dynamic. People expect an emotional reaction. They expect defensiveness, excuses, or an argument. But when you refuse to give them that, when you maintain your composure and let silence do the work, you assert dominance without saying a word. Controlled silence is also a form of self-respect. You don't owe everyone a response. You don't have to justify yourself to people who don't appreciate your value. You don't have to explain yourself to those who misunderstand you. Sometimes the best answer is no answer at all. And when you learn to embrace that, you step into a level of confidence and power that others can't ignore. The next time you find yourself in a situation where you feel the need to defend, explain, or react emotionally, pause. Ask yourself if your words will add value, or if your silence will say more. When you choose controlled silence, you choose strength. You let your actions and your presence speak for you, and that commands more respect than any words ever could.